Hello, welcome to the Generational Gamer. I am trying something a little new today, and we'll see how well it does. So, somebody mentioned something to me the other day about modern games. In fact, it was all about all the steps you have to take just to play a new game if you get one on Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever the holiday. You get a new game today, and the first thing you have to do is you put it into your console. Put it in your console. It'll install. Install is an absolute mandatory function now. Then, some consoles, as I understand, I've never owned an Xbox, but my understanding is that an Xbox requires an internet connection in order to be able to play the game. PlayStation, you can just turn off the internet connection and play it without the update. You just won't have the features, or you can even avoid the update on the PS4, but the PS3, you just don't have on the PS4, you do not have the online features. PS3, I believe you need to still kill the internet connection. Doesn't matter. Switch, you plug the cartridge in, it'll install for a second or two, and then it'll download the updates. Okay, that's fine. Look at the old games. The old games, you put your cartridge in, and it'll work. No load time, no nothing. I will never forget when I first got God of War last year, Spider-Man last year, and the year before last, or whenever Batman Arkham Knight came out, and it took like an hour just to install the damn game. Then it took like another hour or two to do the updates. So what are your options? Well, you can download it digitally, which circumvents all of that, or just not play the game. See, I like the old stuff. It's basic. It's simple in its own right. You just put it in and it works. By the way, Bitchin in the kitchen. See? It's my kitchen. I just chased the kids out of here so I could talk. I'm actually curious what other people think about this, because we're moving into a world where we're going to be streaming. You've got the Google thing, you got Amazon, you got PlayStation Now, which I think royally sucks. I had it for a little while, and I'd never keep it again. I'd never even try to keep it. I'd be interested to see xCloud, but only because of some of the library that I've never been able to play. Anybody see anything? Anybody agree? Disagree? I'm probably going to keep this pretty short. I'm being kind of loud. My kids need to go to bed. But I look at it like this. When you buy a game, in fact, one of my docks right here is my Switch right there. See that? Grab my Switch. And my Switch has become my all-time favorite console these days. But this game didn't even have an update. It's still in version 1. Games are not finished today upon release. When I was a game tester many years ago, they were always talking about the day 1 patch, the patch that would fix all the problems that they knew about, but they still had to ship the game. It's only gotten worse. Think about the Wii. That was the last console that I can remember that you could buy a game for it, plug it in, and it just worked. The Apple mentality, it just works. Prior to that, PS2, well, actually, I don't even know. Xbox, the original Xbox, didn't that require an internet connection for some things? PS2, GameCube, not an issue. N64, we came out with the N64. Saturn, PlayStation, none of them were an issue. None of them had these issues. And then go back to the actual cartridges. Optical media has a finite lifespan. Cartridges, I don't know if they're supposed to last 30 years, but I can tell you my Intellivision from the late 70s still works. Or was it early 80s? Whatever it was. Still have it, it still works. Then again, I don't expect the optical media on modern consoles to last forever. But I expect this thing to work. By the way, this game is hard as hell. I cannot get anywhere in this. I'm still in game 1, and I've had the game for like a year now. But I'm curious, do other people look at things like me? Or am I just a weirdo? Don't answer that. I know I'm a weirdo. Do other people agree with me on these types of things? Are games getting so complicated now where it's almost better to just go back and play some of the classics? I mean, most of my games on this thing are retro in nature. I don't think you could see it because the camera, I'm using my webcam on here. But I mean, you got Aladdin and Lion King, Smash Brothers, Spyro. They're all remixed. And then, of course, you've got the Konami collections and the Sega Genesis and Outrun. But I mean, that's kind of my point. I like the simplicity of the Switch. Yeah, there's some updates sometimes. Bloodstained is a prime example. Don't play it with the original unpatched version. It's going to suck. But here's where it comes into here's where the mandatory downloads and even the mandatory internet connection become critical. We all know what happened with the Wii channel, right? The Wii shop, it's gone. At some point, all of these services are going to be dead. Yeah, you probably could use a Raspberry Pi. I think that's what they're using for Phantasy Star on the Dreamcast. But I mean, they've kept it alive. There's no guarantee that's ever going to happen. In fact, your digital games may be lost forever if you don't properly care for them. I mean, one of the things I like about this one is that you back up this SD card, you're pretty much golden. Assuming you keep it with the original Switch. PlayStation stuff, it isn't going to work that easy. You have a lot more storage to deal with. In addition to the considerably more advanced storage, because you're going to have, I mean, I have a terabyte hard drive in mine, maybe a 2 terabyte hard drive in mine, because you could not fit the installation for all my games on the included 500 gig hard drive. This Switch has a 200 gig SD card in it, and I've got plenty of space on this, and I've got a lot of games. So, to cycle back and to close this thing out, modern games heavily reliant on the internet for both gameplay, completed elements of the game, Spyro, even some Call of Duties have mandatory installations in order to even play the game. What if your internet connection sucks? You're just screwed. Oh, I don't have an internet connection. The Switch, you don't have an internet connection? With the exception of Spyro being incomplete, which is why I bought it digitally, with the exception of that, Mortal Kombat's another one. And I think Fortnite, if you buy the actual game, it's just an empty box with a code. I don't like when companies do that, but sometimes they do. There's not a whole lot I can do about it. Excuse me. But it's pretty rare on the Nintendo Switch. It was never even possible on the consoles, the Wii and prior. And I really do long for those days. There's a reason why I had no problem buying an FPGA console for my NES, Sega Genesis, and Super NES. Those games are classics today. Sure, I have the Genesis Mini, but you know what? Compared to the FPGA consoles, it doesn't hold a candle. It's just the way I look at it. And at the end of the day, I'm going to play something that, one, I don't have to have permanently connected to an internet connection. I don't have to worry that one day when I go to play these games, half of it's going to be missing. I don't have to log on to a streaming service, which in its function sounds phenomenal, because I can play from my Switch, I can go to my phone, I can go to my computer, I can go to anything, and it'll work as long as the internet connection is solid. I mean, I have no problem streaming movies. It works out quite well, actually. And they're always available, and I can go from one room to the other. Video games are different. There's far more involved in a video game, because there's so many different options when you're playing the game. And to suddenly lose connection at a critical moment when you've been spending all this time trying to kill this boss, I think that would be infuriating. Now with the PlayStation Now, you can download PS2 and PS4 games directly to your hard drive, and then it'll just access the service. I get that. I don't know what Project xCloud will do. I'd love to give it a try. But as an older gamer, I have a problem paying for something I will never actually own. At least with Spyro, which I bought digitally, I own the SD card it is sitting on. I own the Switch that it is sitting on. And all my PlayStation 3 and 4 games that are digital, I own the hard drive they're sitting on. I can back them up if PSN ever goes down. You do not own anything on a streaming service. On the plus side, at least the game will be complete when you go to play it. So that's all I got right now. Let me know in the comments below if you think I am all full of it, or if you think that I make some decent points. I'm interested to know what people think. Anyway, that's it. Prime out. Have a good one.